Okay, so this is the code for the depth first traversal. What we're going to do here is fill out this function, the depth first traversal function. So before we do that, let's take a look at the rest of the file. It's a HTML file. Couple things to point out. I've included the Sarissa library here so that I can do things that will work cross-browser with the XML. And I've declared a function here called loadXMLData. And the loadXMLData function essentially sets up the test XML for this exercise. It defines a string. You can see here A, B, C. This is the sample document that we saw back in the slide. So this essentially constructs the same XML structure that we just looked at during the lesson portion. So I'm using the DOM parser object, and again, this is going to work cross-browser now because I've got the Sarissa library included. And the parser creates an XML document, which I store here in this global variable, which is parsed from the test data string. And then down here, I have my window on load function, which loads the XML data and then does the depth first traversal and then shows an alert, which is this global variable string, which we're going to be alerting on. And that will be built up over time in a moment. And what it's going to do is it's simply going to record the document nodes in the order that we visit them. Now, if this were a more practical example, we would be processing each node as we visited it for some reason. But since this is an illustrative example, we're just going to build up the string in the order that we visit the nodes. So this is the function we need to write. So what we're going to do is first check to see if the node that we were given is equal to null. Because if the node is equal to null, then we can't really operate on it. So we'll say if onode not equal to null. Okay, then we can do our operation. So we're going to write that for loop. And the purpose of the for loop, remember, is to get us down to the lowest level of the tree first and then work our way back up and process each node after we've already visited all of its children. So I'm going to write for the node equals o node dot first child. And then we need to make sure that the node is not equal to null. Because if the node is equal to null, then we've reached the end of the child list. And to advance it, we say the node equals the node dot next sibling. So all we're going to do inside this loop is call this function again. Depth first traversal, only this time we're going to call it with the node. So after this for loop completes, because we've run out of child nodes, what we're going to do is, in the visit order string, we're going to say gVisitOrder. We're going to append a value to it. And we're going to append the node name to indicate that we were here. Plus, and we'll put some space in there to make it look good. So we've reached the point now where we can try this out in the browser. And you can see that after this function completes, we're going to just alert whatever this string is. So let's go ahead and bring this up in IE. So you can see that what happened was we visited the nodes in the same order as we indicated back in the slide. So we went all the way down to the child nodes, F and G. Then we went back up to C, D, and E, and then up to B. And then all the way down the right-hand side, we did I and J, back up to H, back up to A, and then we finally visited the document parent node. That's the document element right there. Okay. Now let's try the same thing in Firefox to make sure that works there. And it's the same result. You can see that we've visited all the child nodes first, even though we passed in A. A is the very last root tag that we visit, followed by the document element, which is the parent element in the DOM tree of the root tag. That's an example of doing depth first node traversal. Let's move on now and take a look at how we would do a breadth first node traversal.